I want to introduce at this point Kalpana, who is actually our head of product. She'll be talking to you in just a few moments, but I am going to just say a few words up front here. Obviously, we have people joining. I'm going to turn that part off so I'm not distracted. And we have a very important tool that we've developed here for everyone that's doing business today. In fact, if we go to my slides, I'm going to share my slides so I can control them. There we go. Here we go. I feel better now. I'm in control. We've all been going through digital transformation for many years, I would argue. It's a hot button term right now, but literally every department within the organization needs some type of automated business process flow. And most of the time they're complex. In years past, when I've worked in product development groups or other types of groups, we design and develop heavy processes. We do a great job of documenting them. We'll three-hole punch them and put them in a binder, and as soon as they're on the shelf, they're obsolete. So one of the challenges in developing these processes digitally is how not only can you do it in an automated method, but can you modify it quickly? Can you react to the business needs that will obviously come up? Additionally, I've been involved in many projects where it's ultimately someone doesn't scope something correctly. So as soon as you go live, you realize that you've missed something or you need to modify something. So missing in today's processes are the ability to develop complex workflows rapidly. And when you cannot develop a rapid, workflow that's complex, you're still missing out on efficiency and adding cost to your process and delaying what you're doing for the business. There are a variety of different workflows that you can design and develop in today's business, and these are just an example of a few. But as I mentioned before, you have to scope them correctly. If you have to modify it, you have to redo something. That can take a lot of time and effort. But from a business perspective, as a user, if you tell me to go to somewhere and access my expense approval, for example, how do I always know where that is versus my budget approval and special access? The businesses I've been involved with historically, they have these links floating around everywhere. You always have to ask the person and know where you go to get the latest and greatest. And then once you complete a process, how do you keep tabs on where it is in the process, what level of approval's taking place, who's approved it, is it complete yet? I was involved in a technology business recently that it actually deployed an expense report for business development salespeople designed by a finance person that required salespeople to apply general ledger codes to each line item. And they would get those codes in an associated table that was emailed to them, quarterly to look those codes up. You can imagine the reception that company received. It actually took them over 6 months to recover from that and correct the process. I've also seen companies delivering technology and network that do things like collect SD-WAN requirements from a business, and they would ask questions about locations and bandwidth, and then it would go to the sales engineer and they'd approve a design and send a separate approval, go through that whole process, but they forgot to ask what kind of traffic was going over the devices. They literally, again, had a long recovery time in correcting that custom designed process. And it's not unique. It happens every day in business. And what we hope to tell you today and show you is how we mitigate those issues. Now, certainly the common ways that most people are developing these automations today are basic apps like approvals apps. They're pretty common, and for just a real basic approval, it works great. There are other methodologies like custom coding in SharePoint, doing Power App, Power Automate applications, great tools, and using third-party tools like Nintex, for example. But for the last three, all three of those require custom coding when you have complex requirements, and the same issues then exist. What is it hard to be responsive to the business when you're doing custom coding? And most of the time the answer is yes. So the question that's always in my mind is, what are you not automating because it's difficult to do, that you could gain a great deal of benefit from? So as I said at the top of this meeting, we're introducing Titan Workflow. It is a low code, no code, and actually we clarified that as a no code tool. It's very cost effective. It allows you to be, whether you're an IT professional within a company and joining us today, or one of our partners that delivers these services to your customer base. This is very fast, cost efficient, and we would argue the best way to attack most of these problems. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Kalpana to actually show you how we develop a workflow. And I'm going to challenge her to do one in 10 minutes, which is, it can take months in some environments. And she's also going to describe, some things like the dashboard and other elements of this important process. So, housekeeping issue, please add questions to the chat if you have any. We're going to have a Q&A session after Kalpana and I talk once more. So without further ado, Kalpana, are you ready to jump in?
Sure, Scott.
Okay.
Thank you, and I'll be sharing my screen now.
Great.
Right. So following the wonderful introduction given by my colleague Scott, I am going to give you the demonstration of this workflow automation tool and highlight some of its strengths, like creation of the dynamic flows, wherein I can control the role-based access. It can be a controlled access at every step of the flow. I can actually create dynamic forms by choosing the fields I would want to place on the form, as well as apply the validation I would want. Without any coding, I simply have to just choose from the list of validations which are available for every type of field. And the form which gets created through this tool, it's completely responsive both for desktop as well as mobile platform. Then it also gives a feature of free e-sign and PDF generation. Plus, there is a dashboard, common dashboard for all the processes, like all the requests which are coming across for all the processes. They can be seen on a single screen. So that's the integrated dashboard I talked about. And all the users who are on M365 business plan, they don't have to worry about purchasing Power App licenses if they're using this particular tool. So the demonstration which I'll be giving is going to be divided in 3 phases. In the first phase, I am actually going to give you a tour of this tool, how it looks, as well as I'm going to show you how it works by running one of the existing processes which have been created through this tool. In the second phase, I'm going to actually create a workflow in very less time, without any coding, without any designing skills. And then finally, I will be showing you the complexity which can be achieved through this tool in a very easy way. So coming back to the first phase here, let me give you the tour of how the tool looks. Now, this is the dashboard of this tool. So when I click on dashboard, I get to see the dashboard. It'll have 2 tabs. The first is the inbox, wherein I can get to see all those requests which have come for my action. And the outbox is going to have all those requests which have been initiated by me. So I am just going to run through one of the processes which have been created through this tool. So these are all the processes which are available within my organization. So I'm just going to start with, let's say, the first employee exit process. Now let's understand what this process is all about. So it's going to have 3 levels of approval. For example, if let's say an employee who's serving his notice period and is about to leave the organization has to take some clearance from various departments within the organization. So in this particular case, I have considered IT department, HR department, and finally the finance department. So there are going to be 3 steps of approval. Some actions which can be taken by stakeholders at every step I'm going to talk about, and any number of attachments can be attached by any of the stakeholders at any step, and some validations which have been put into the form of this workflow, like the name of the initiator and his reporting managers, they're auto-picked, they're coming auto-populated, the date of relieving, the meeting date. These dates have certain restriction of what kind of dates can be entered. For example, only the future dates are allowed here, and by default, the current date is set as the default date. And there are certain fields which have been marked as mandatory, so the mandatory check would also happen. So let's see. This is the flow for which I'm going to raise a request. I just click on new request. It's going to bring up a form wherein the employee is expected to enter his details. So let's say I enter the designation as sales manager. The department is, let's say, sales. So the employee name, just like employee name, the employee manager is also coming auto-populated. I can mention the location as, let's say, New York. The date of relieving has been put as the current date, and there is a validation. Only future dates and the current date can be picked up. So all the previous dates have been disabled here. So I can just let it be the current date, and I can mention the list of assets I as an employee had issued. So let's say it was an iPad and a laptop. Now, these are the only fields available for me as an employee to fill. Rest of the sections are not there for me to edit. So I'll just fill these details. I can add an attachment if I want, and I'll simply submit it. Now, once I do a submit, it has to go to the first department for the approval, which is the IT department. I have placed my name at every step so that it comes to me on my dashboard for the approval and I can demonstrate it. So approval by the IT department. I was a part of IT department also, so that is how I can see it on my dashboard. I can just click on action here to take an action on this request, which has come to me for approval. Now, again, the complete form is going to be disabled except for the section which is relevant to me as an IT person. So this is the IT section available for me. Rest of the sections, they are disabled. That is how this form has been designed. So I just have to provide the information whether all the assets have been returned. I say yes, and the comments by IT department. It's optional, but then I've put some comments, and then these are the set of actions which can be taken at every step. So approve is going to give the approval at the current stage, and it's going to move it to the next step of approval to the next stakeholder. Reject is going to stop the flow. If I don't want to let it go any further, I want to reject it, I can click on this. Forward comes with 3 flavors. In the current step, I have these 2 stakeholders. I want to add more stakeholders who can take action. So I can add more stakeholders by clicking on this plus button. The second flavor is about creating a new step altogether after my current step. I can do that here. And I want, let's say, I want to take some views or reviews or kind of feedback from some more stakeholders. I can use this third flavor. So I can either take those views secretly by clicking on this, in which case it will not be visible to the rest of the stakeholders. Or if I just uncheck it, it will be available to all to see. So, and there is one more action here, revert. So revert, if I want to just send this form back to any of the previous stakeholders, back to the initiator or any of the previous approvers, I can do that. I can actually choose which is the previous step I want it to go to. And after doing that step, which are the next steps it should be taking. So even that can be controlled and selected here. So for now, I'm just going to click on approve. So this is going to send it for the next level of approval. I have some comments, some remarks if I want to have, otherwise I can leave it blank since it's not mandatory, and I click on submit. Now, once the submit happens, it goes to the HR for the approval. And since my name was there, I can see it on my dashboard as well, right? So this is how it flows through various steps. So similarly, HR can just click on action and take action and fill the fields appropriate or I would say relevant for that HR. And then it will just move on to the next steps. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through all the steps, but then yes, I can show you what happens when all the approvals have happened. How does the form look? So let's filter out some of the already approved requests. These are the ones here. So let's pick any one of them of the similar process. Let's employee exit. Let's pick this one up here. I just click on action and see how the form looks at the end once all the approvals have happened. So this is how it looks with all the signatures wherever the signatures have been put in or all the approvals which are done. I can even generate a PDF from this form. And I can even decide what all I need on this form. I want the company logo to appear, yes, no, or I would want the company name, yes, no, with, without history. I can do that. I want to pick up one of the location, the address of one of the locations of my organization. I can just select that and this automatically gives the address in the background as you can see here. I can turn off any of these items from the address as per my choice. And if I want to add some text at the bottom of this address, I can do that as well. So let's say this is office copy I'm talking about and just click on submit. The moment I click on submit, it's going to generate a PDF and download it for me. I can just click on this and see how the PDF looks. So this is how the PDF is getting generated here with all the sections filled, all the signatures and the approvals from various departments. And since I opted for having history at the end, it got appended at the bottom of the form. So this is the PDF which got generated. So that's how the tool, this workflow actually works, which have been created through this tool. So as a second step, now I'm just going to demonstrate to you how easily I can create a new process through this tool. So for this, I'm going to use a leave approval process. So this is the process I'm going to very quickly create through this tool. Now there are going to be 2 levels of approval in this process, which I'm going to create, and there will be actions at every step. Provision for anyone to attach any documents, any number of documents at every step, and some validations I would like to have. Let's say the initiator's name and his reporting manager's name should come auto-picked, and some fields I will make mandatory so that there can be mandatory check also. So for creating a process, not everybody within an organization will be able to create the process. For that, I need to have a special role of process admin. So the process admin will get to see this particular option processes. So clicking on this option is going to show all the list of processes to the process admin. And the process admin can manage all these processes, can enable, disable, can edit any one of them, can delete any one of them, and even create a new process here. So let's say I create a new process. I need to have some name, let's say leave approval process. I want it for the leave request, the template name, let's say leave approval is what I want to call it. I can even decide the fields on the form should be placed in a single column, 2 columns, or 3 columns. So I can decide on the arrangement of the fields. I want it to be of 2 columns, so I choose 2 here, and then I can choose one of the icons from this gallery, or I can even upload it from my system. So let's start adding the fields now. On the top, I would like to have, let's say, a label or a header. Want to call it, let's say, employee details. I submit. Let's add an edit box here, edit box for taking inputs. Let's say I want employee name. Now the employee name has to be person type. These are the different data types which are available for the edit box. So let's say I want person type here. I want it to be mandatory, yes. And I want the initiator's name to be populating automatically. I just let it be and then submit. This creates the first edit box. Then I go to the second one. I want to, let's say, have the department of the requester. So let it be a text box and not mandatory. The third one, let's say I want to have the department. Now department, I want to have a drop down here. So I can just say drop down yes, and I can pick the options which I would like to have. Let's say I want HR, keep adding, sales, admin, IT, marketing. Just add this, and then finally I would like to just submit this. The drop down is created. Okay, I just need to rename it department by department, let's say, and then I submit. Okay, so now it can be a lengthy form. I don't have to make the complete form at a single go. I can actually save it as a draft by submitting it. And maybe at a later stage, I can just edit in and resume from where I left it. So I can add more fields here. So let's say I want to have the name of the reporting manager now. The reporting manager, again, I need this to be person type, and I want it to be auto-picked. So the manager names can be auto-picked for the current logged in user, and I submit here. Let's have another section for the leave details. I want to know from when till when the leaves have to be applied. Leave starting from, this has to be date type here. So I can decide what validation I would want. I should be allowed, the initiator should be allowed to just put the past date or the future dates, including with or without the today's date. I can decide that. I want to keep it open for now. So let's pick any date for now and submit. So similarly, I'll just have one more date here. Till, again, date. Again, let it be any date, and okay, let's make it mandatory. And then I submit. Let's have the type of leaves. And this time again, I would want this to be a dropdown. So let's pick the options for this. Casual leaves, sick leaves, and let's say annual leaves. That's it. Okay, and then I am just going to have the final field. Let's say I want to know the reason for leave. It can be a lengthy text, so I'm just going to make it multi-line here. So that type of field is also available. Now this multi-line box should be spanning to the width of the page or just to a particular column. I can take a decision. So let's say I just wanted to cover the column width, and it has to be mandatory yes, and I submit. So the form for the employee is there, ready. Now I need to add two more sections. Okay, let's go back. Let's add the section for the reporting manager. Or let's call it section for reporting manager. So I would like the reporting manager to put some comments, and let's make it multi-line here. It need not be mandatory, and let it span to the whole page width, and I submit this. And the last section for the HR. So let's not have any field for the HR, just the signatures would do. So I have completed the form and I just submit this. So the form is ready. Now all I need to do is add the steps of approval. So that's also equally simple to create the steps here. I just need to go to process steps and keep adding any number of steps I would like to have. So let's say the first step is, of course, for the reporting manager. Now I can decide what all would I want, what type of approvers it should be. It should be a role. I can pick up from the set of roles which are available, or I want to pick particular user. I'll have to give my name here so that it comes to my dashboard and I can show it to you. I can have a group of users, pre-created group with a set of users. I can choose that group also. There can be a particular person type column on the form, and I would want whatever the name of the person is on that column, that person's name should be the approver. So I can even have this particular option selected here. Or if I just want to create a step, but I'm not sure who the stakeholder would be, so I can leave it blank. I just create the step, and at the runtime, then if I choose this, it's going to ask me that time who is the person to whom it should be going for the approval. So for now, I'm just going to say user, and I put my name here, and I can even decide what action I would like to have. So the manager should be allowed. So there's one field which the manager has to edit. So I'll keep edit option here. And let's say the signatures. And where do I want the signatures to appear? I can say whether at the bottom of the form or a particular field. So let's say I want it at the next to the comments. And which are the fields the reporting manager should be allowed to edit? So comments. And I submit this. So the first step is ready. It's just a matter of picking and choosing. Let's have one more step for the HR. Again, I'll have to place my name here so that it comes to me for the approval. And the action this time, there are no fields for the HR. So I just have to say either review only or review and sign. Let the HR sign and let it come at the bottommost at the end of the form. And I submit. Now I can decide who all can initiate this form. So anyone within the organization or just the employees of the organization. The guest users can also do it, just the guest users, or I can choose from the set of people who can do it. So let's put anyone for now, right? And whoever initiates it should not have access to all the fields. So I'll make it partial. So I'll choose which are the fields which are going to be available for that initiator to edit. So employee name is coming auto-populated. I don't want the employee to change this. So I choose department, employee, I'm sorry, it should have been designation, doesn't matter, employee department. Reporting manager again comes pre-populated. I don't want that to be changed. Leave starting from, leave till, type of leave, reason for leaves. Right, so these are the fields which have to be filled by the initiator. I just said it. So here, my form is ready. So I think it was just around in 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes, I've been able to create the complete flow. Now I'll just show you how this flow would work. So let's say I first, as a process admin, will have to enable so that all the employees of the organization will be able to access this. Now, when I activate it, it's going to give me two options, whether I want it to be available only for 15 days of trial, or it should be active forever. So let's say I want to be it to be available for 15 days, and I just choose this and submit. So now this is active and available to the employees of the organization. So now as the employee of this organization, I'll just refresh it once so that it's available for me. I can raise a request on this newly created workflow and show you how it would work. So I just click on new request here, and it will show me all the processes which are there available within my organization. So this is the one which I just created, and I created new request here. Okay, so this actually is designation. I can actually go back and edit this also. So, but then in the interest of time, let's say I'm just going to put the designation here as sales representative. The department is, let's say, the sales. The reporting manager, I had mentioned that it should come auto-populated, and even the employee name. So that's how it is. So I had asked for these details for the leaves. Leaves should be starting from, so since it's an open field, I can choose any one of them. And again, the leave still should be any date here. Type of leaves, I can just, these are the three I defined. So let's say casual leaves and reason for leaves. Okay, so I can give some reason. These are the only fields available for me as an initiator. I click on this and submit. Right, so once I submit this, it's going to go to the first level of approval to my reporting manager. So it comes here. I had put my name so I can see it on my dashboard also. So very quickly, I'm just going to run through both the steps here. It's otherwise this same way, the way I showed you how the process works. So optional comments by the reporting manager, and the approval has to be done, approve. So I can either type my signatures, or I can have the image of my signatures, which I've already uploaded here so that I don't have to search for my signatures every time I have to provide an approval or sign it. I can simply click on this saved signature and paste it here and approve it. Or I can even draw my signatures if I want to, and then I just click on submit. So the first step got over, and it now flows to the next step, to the HR. So it comes for HR approval, click on action. As an HR, since HR did not have any fields to modify, it comes in a non-editable mode, and the HR simply has to click on approve. Again, the HR can type or put an image or even draw the signatures. Put some remarks optionally and just approve. So that's how the tool works actually. So if I were to just go back and refresh it once so that it changes the status to approved, and I want to just see how the PDF can be generated, I can actually go and look at the form, the complete form, and generate the PDF just the way I showed you earlier, right? So this finishes my second step. And then I'm just going to take you to the third step here, wherein I'm going to show you how complex a form can be when I create using this form, using this tool. So for that, I'm just going to pick up one of the complex forms here, the purchase order. And these are some of the validations. 2 steps of approval, but some complex calculations and some fields which have been provided, which I'm going to just show you. So such complexity can be achieved very easily through this tool. So some of the validations here, like for example, in PO number, it says that it has to be in a set format with a 10-character limit. So the set format says it has to start with a PO hyphen. So that has already been defined. I can just put any number after this. The order number is getting auto-generated order number in a set format, and it again has to be non-editable. So the format here says that there has to be a prefix here, A, and at the end there has to be underscore the year, the suffix, and in the center there has to be a running serial number like 1000, 1001, 1002. So that's how the order number keeps getting generated every time a new purchase order request is created. The PO date here says that it cannot be the future date, has to be current or the previous date. So that's how it has been set here. I cannot choose any of the future dates. I can be picking current date or any of the past dates here. Department, it's simple, just the drop down. Now due date is a custom field, which is there, which has a custom logic written within it. For example, if let's say I have some due date for this particular form. This has been calculated currently as current date plus 20 days. So that's a calculation which has derived this due date. And there's a logic which says that once this due date is crossed, it starts sending the notification mails to the initiator. Okay, so that's how it works. And the vendor details, very simple here. The text boxes can be entered. And the vendor mobile number, it has to be starting with the country code. So that's already coming prefixed. I can just enter the mobile number, and that is a limit of 10 digits. I cannot go beyond this. Then the shipping details, it has to be shipped to. I just mentioned the name of the receiver. That's simple. But then I've just put some delivery date of around 30, 35 days from today. So that's how it's got calculated automatically. I can put the delivery address. Now comes the details, the purchase details. Now there can be n number of items, multiple entries of the items. So for that, I have chosen table type field here. I can put any number of items. So let's say I have, let's say laptop, Mac laptop, quantity 2, let's say the unit price is $2,000. The amount is automatically getting calculated as the product of quantity and unit price. On top of it, there is some tax which is getting added, and the net amount is getting calculated here. And at the bottom, you can see the totals are also coming. So let me add one more row. I can keep adding any number of rows here. So maybe iPad, Apple iPad, a single one worth $400 here. So again, the calculations happened and the total is getting calculated here at the bottom. So I can choose which all are the columns for which I want the totals. I can turn them on and off according to my wish. Right. So once this calculation happened, there is another set of calculations here outside the table. I can have the transportation cost, maybe some transportation cost here. Service charge I can mention. So once I put the service charge, it will automatically calculate the payable amount. Let's say I say 5% here. So what it does is it's going to have 5% on calculated on this net amount, adding the transportation cost. And that is how the payable amount is calculated. So the thing is, any complexity, any complex formula can be achieved very easily simply by selecting the fields. And I can have this kind of a form created, however complex it can be. So this completes the third phase of my demonstration here. So I would like to hand it over back to Scott. Scott, over to you.
Thanks, Kalpana. That was great. I forgot to time you and see if it was exactly 10 minutes or not, but that's okay. We can somebody maybe timed it, hopefully. Now, I appreciate it. So you guys can see that just from the example of how quickly she could put together a workflow in the ones that she built, it was very easy to use. There was no custom coding. The exact last example she showed of the purchase order added all, not all, but many complex requirements, including calculating and a variety of other things that typically you have to do custom development to be able to achieve in that kind of workflow. And that was all done with this Titan workflow tool, which is amazing. It's especially amazing to people I've talked to that typically do this in Power Apps and Power Automate. When you have dynamic forms and flows, and you require the flow to be responsive. That means if you make the screen smaller, it'll make it one column instead of three, things like that, instead of just making the image smaller. And a variety of things, it typically requires custom coding. Dashboards that actually make the user experience much better, as you saw, are a custom coded item that aren't typically available just in the Power Apps, Power Automate column. Now, we're not picking on Power Apps and Power Automate. We think they're great products. We work in the Microsoft space, though, and it's important to understand the value and the benefit of using Titan workflow with Power Automate and the differentiation that we're able to achieve. Now, we offer this, and this is unique, I believe, also in the industry. We offer this as a service per workflow. We only charge per workflow that you actually go live with. So we totally de-risked the overall process of really doing this. If you create a workflow that doesn't work or isn't right, and you don't go live, you don't pay for it. Our team, on an ongoing basis, works with you to design and deploy those workflows. And beyond that, if that ultimate thing, like I mentioned early in the meeting, happens and something isn't right and it has to be corrected, like when Kalpana noticed that she should have put designation instead of department in one of those fields, it would have taken her 1 minute to go back and change that, instead of going back through the process of scoping a new project, making sure engineers are available to correct it, and then going through a QA process again and launching it again to the world, if you will. So we charge once for the process. It's a 12-month license, and it covers everything, including ongoing support during that time frame. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the rest of our product set. And Titan Workflows is the newest of the modules that we've made available in our collaboration space called Titan Workspace. It all runs inside Microsoft Teams, delivers documents, workflows now, projects and tasks and intranet. And probably overlaying all of these modules is the fact that we're able to generate and develop guest user portals that give, in a very secure and efficient way, non-AD users access to these processes if you are actually collaborating with them on it. Most companies I work with have consultants that actively participate in projects. You need to deliver certain workflows to them and give them access to it. That can be a challenge in some environments if you don't have an efficient way to address the guest user availability. This is my contact information. Please feel free to reach out to me or to inquire at info@titanworkspace.com. And I'd be happy to give greater detail on this. We're happy to engage with you as a partner, or if you're a customer, we'd be happy to engage with you and help connect with a partner that can join with us to help you. So again, thank you for your time and attention today, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.